All right, ladies and gentlemen, today is September 13th, 2013, and you should be working on page 21. Please put at the top of page 21 the title, Ordering Rational Numbers and Absolute Value. Our objective for the day is right here. I can order rational numbers on a number line, and I understand what absolute value is. Take a minute to write that down. Okay, so now let's talk about a little bit of a review before we try to put rational numbers on a number line. Let's talk about what a rational number is. And we learned about this probably like the third day of school when you did that Venn diagram about the different kinds of numbers, but you might have forgotten. A rational number is a number that can be expressed as a ratio. Go ahead and write this down. A ratio or fraction. The numerator and the denominator of the fraction are both integers. And remember, you may recall that an integer can be any of the whole numbers and their opposite. So it could be 3, negative 10, 20, etc. So an example of a rational number might be negative 3 over 11. Both the numerator and the denominator are integers. Take a minute to write that down. Okay, we're going to continue on page 21. Just go to the bottom of page 21. And before we actually get to where we compare and order rational numbers, we need to review the greater than, less than, equal to symbols. Every year I have students who don't know what these are, and it kind of baffles my mind because you've known them since like first grade. But in case you have forgotten, the greater than symbol looks like this. It's a little arrow pointing to the right. And the less than symbol looks like this. It's a little arrow pointing to the left. Equal, I really hope you know equal. I really hope so, because otherwise it's scary. And now, a little trick that I always used to remember is I think of this little thing as a mouth, okay? It's an alligator with sharp teeth. And the alligator wants to eat the bigger number. So if I have, for example, the number 6 and the number 10, my alligator wants to eat the bigger number. So my 10 is greater than 6. So 6 is less than this symbol, 10. And then, you know, both of them are alligators. The equal sign, I don't know, maybe it's an alligator with his mouth shut. Never thought of that. But anyway, moving on. All right, so let's go ahead and go on. Okay, this should go on the top of page 22. Please put the title at the top, Comparing Integers. That's a good title. Comparing Integers. This is page 22, and the date is, once again, September 13th. And if you could, take a minute to write this number line in your notebook. It should go from negative 10 to positive 10. Pause the video if you need to. And then we have all of these letters going across the number line, and we're going to compare them. Before we actually get into the sample problems, though, something I think everybody knows, but I just want to make sure. The further left a number is, or in this case a letter, the less the value of that number. So if it's left of another number, it's less than. If it's to the right of another number, it's more than. And you'll see as we go through these examples. My first example is involving the letters H and B. So let's find H and let's find B. And we need to ask ourselves, is H to the left of B or is it to the right of B? And it's in this case to the left of B. Therefore, H is less than B. Don't forget your inequality symbols of the alligator. Rawr. The alligator wants the bigger number, so H is less than B, so the alligator eats B. I'm going to pause the video, and I want you to see if you can figure out the rest of the problems on this screen. And in just a moment, I will show the correct answers. So I'm going to count down from 10. Make sure you pause the video before I get to 0. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, these are the correct answers that you should have come up with. The first two are pretty simple. D is greater than A. Here's D. Here's A. D is further right than A, so D is bigger than A. It's greater than A. And then over here, G and C. G is all the way down at this end, and C is up here, so G is less than C. And the one that might have given you a little bit of trouble is this one down at the bottom, F plus D and H plus C. But one way you could have done this is to actually put in the values of each letter and then done the addition problem. So F equals 0 and D is 3. So I know you can all do 0 plus 3. It gives us 3. And then I have H over here, which is negative 3, and C, which is 7. Now, since I know all of you were paying such good attention in class today, I know that you know how to do a problem like that. You take the number that's further from 0 and split it up. You find your additive inverses and cancel them, and you end up with the answer of 4. So then you have 3 and 4, and you know that 3 is less than 4. If you got those wrong, you might want to replay that part of the video so you can figure out where you went wrong. On the same page, going down about halfway, go ahead and make another number line that goes from negative 10 to positive 10. And I'm going to put some numbers on the board that I want you to try and put onto that number line correctly. I think, once again, you guys can handle this. I don't think you're going to have too much difficulty, but just in case. There are your 6 numbers. Take a minute to go ahead and put them up on your number line, and in 5 seconds I'm going to reveal the answer. So you might want to pause so that you can get your numbers on there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You, Cameron. All right. Oh, hang on. Sorry, I had somebody come to the door and I had to go take care of something. I have put the answers up on the board for you. If you didn't get them in the right place, I have another link that I'm going to put on Edmodo for you that's practice putting numbers on the number line. You might want to use that if you have a spare 10-15 minutes, because without that skill, the next few lessons are going to be very, very difficult for you. Okay, so now we're going to switch topics just a little bit, and we're going to talk about absolute zero. I believe this is page 23 now that we should be on, page 23. And your title, I didn't put a title up here on the screen. Your title should be absolute value. Make sure you put page 23 and the date, which once again is September 13th. And on the first couple lines of this page, go ahead and put the definition. Absolute value is the number of units or distance. Distance is a key word here. The number of units or the distance between an integer and 0, and that is called the absolute value. Now that's kind of like the mathy textbook definition. The way I like to think about it is, how far away is my number from 0? Just how far is it? So here we have 2 different numbers that have been plotted on this number line. We have negative 10 here, and we have positive 10 here. And our question is, how far away from 0 is negative 10? Well, if we're just talking distance, this distance right here is simply 10. Okay, it is 10 away from 0, 10 units. But if we look also at positive 10, this point right here, how far is that away from 0? It's the exact same distance. It is positive 10. Notice that the absolute value of negative 10 and the absolute value of positive 10 is both 10. So in your notebooks, what I'd like you to write, you don't have to draw the number line, you don't have to do all that, but I do want you to write absolute value. The symbol for absolute value is 2 vertical lines. So the absolute value of negative 10 is 10, okay, because it is 10 away from 0. The distance is 10. And then also please put that the absolute value of positive 10 is also 10. I have too many people say or try to say, and don't write this down because this is the wrong example, they try and say that the absolute value of positive 10 is negative 10. They try and just do the opposite. There is a big, big difference between opposite and between absolute value. Opposite, you switch the sign. So the opposite of 10 is negative 10. Absolute value is how far away from 0 the number is. So this example is wrong. Okay? Still on the same page, put this note on your page. The absolute value of an integer is never, 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 never negative because it asks how far away is it from 0. You can kind of decorate it, make this look really important, put a bubble around it. It's the biggest mistake people make in absolute value. Pause it if you need to. Write that down. Make it beautiful. Make it colorful. Make it something you're going to notice in your notebook because you cannot forget that. On the same page, I still think you have some room. I'm going to put some practice problems up on the board as far as absolute value goes, and then I'm going to give you some minutes to try and solve them, or some seconds to try and solve them, and then we'll see if you got the right answer. Okay, so I'll just put maybe 5 problems up. Okay, I'm going to show up the answers in 10 seconds, so please make sure that you pause the video before that time. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here's the answers for you. Notice all of your answers are positive because the absolute value of a number can never be negative. And I actually made a mistake right there. I put for here that the answer was negative 3.5. That is totally wrong. Bad, Mrs. Ott. It should be positive 3.5. Now, that being said, I want to show you something that sometimes mean people that make tests, like Mrs. Ott, will try and trick you with something. So over here on the side, I want you to put a, how about special case, okay? Because you have to be careful of this trick that sometimes mean teachers will try to pull on you. You might see a question that's like this: the negative absolute value of 3. Now, I've told you over and over and over again in this video that absolute value cannot be negative, and that's true. But because this problem has a negative sign outside the absolute value, it's kind of like parentheses in PEMDAS. You know, you follow order of operations, you do what's inside the parentheses first. So these absolute value lines kind of act like parentheses. So we're going to do that first. The absolute value of 3 is just 3, positive 3. But we can't then forget that outside of the absolute value, we have a negative symbol. So the answer to the negative absolute value of 3 is indeed negative 3. Some really, really, really mean teachers will take it even a step further and write this down too, because you might see this on a test also. Watch what I'm going to do. The negative absolute value of the negative absolute value of negative 1. Oh, that's mean, Mrs. Ott, and confusing. Well, let's start out by kind of separating where our absolute values are. I have this as one set of absolute values, and this On the outside is another set of absolute values. So just like in order of operations, if you have more than one set of parentheses, you do the most inside parentheses first. So we're going to start with the most inside set of absolute value, which is right here. So if I look at that and I ask myself, what is the absolute value of -1? Well, that's going to be positive. Okay, so that's +1. And I'm going to bring down the rest of my expression, just like I would in order of operations. Hang on one second. I didn't give myself enough room. So now I have, instead of this complex thing, I've simplified it a wee bit, and now I just have the negative absolute value of -1. Well, once again, I still have a set of absolute value symbols. I need to do those first. So if I take the absolute value of -1, I know that that equals +1. I've taken care of these absolute value symbols, and I bring down the rest of the expression, so my answer is -1. That last bit might have been a bit confusing for you, and I understand that. We'll work on some questions like that on Monday, but do try and maybe rewatch that part of the video and see if you can figure it out. Oh my goodness, I've gone a minute over my promised timeline. I'm going to stop the video now, and I'm not even going to ask you to do a reflection like I was planning on because I'm taking too long. So have a good weekend, and I will see you guys on Monday morning. Bye-bye.